Singularity by William Sleator, Chapter 11. Trying to talk to us, Barry said. Then you do think it's alive. He quickly set it down on the table. I don't know, but it seems like a machine. I think it could be repeating a pattern, like a recording or a message. Something like that plaque they sent into outer space that shows what people look like and where Earth is. Well, it ain't saying nothing to me, Lucy said. Me either. But Harry thinks he knows all the answers, Barry said, walking over to the sink. I stared down at the object on the table. If there was a pattern to it, it was labyrinthine and complex. Just learning to recognize the beginning and the end would take time. As for deciphering what it might be trying to say, that hardly seemed possible. I heard water dripping and looked up. Barry was washing his hands under the very slow trickle that fell from the tap into the large black metal basin. He rarely washed his hands without being told. What are you doing that for? I asked him. Getting the cobwebs off, and also, well, if it really is from another universe, I just thought, if he was afraid of contamination, he should never have picked up the alien object or even opened the playhouse after the tremor. But of course, I didn't say that. Why fight about it now? Lucy shook her head. Well, I ain't going to waste the whole night talking about crazy things like this, she said. I better go back before it starts to get light. Barry laughed. I wouldn't worry about wasting your time in here. It's going to be months before it gets light outside. Hang around and see, if you don't believe me. He turned off the faucet. Look, I said. I picked up the flashlight and directed the beam out through the open door. Another rabbit sat alertly under the sundial, staring at us. See, everything's frozen out there. Sometimes rabbits do that when they're scared, she said dryly. Watch this. She picked up one of the survival biscuits, bent sideways, and swung her arm a couple of times, then pitched it expertly at the rabbit. She threw like a boy. The biscuit whizzed out the door. Then it slowed, as though moving through water, and stopped, hanging in midair. The rabbit didn't move or blink. It's going to be a while before it gets to him, I said. No, Lucy said, the color drained from her face. There was no need for me to be nasty and say I told you so. I just kept the light on the suspended biscuit in its olive green wrapper. The clock, perhaps, could have been fixed, but there was only one explanation for what was happening now. It was the most direct evidence she had seen. I almost felt sorry for her. She seemed close to tears. But it can't... Barry was being awfully quiet, I suddenly noticed. I turned around. He stood with his hands on the edge of the sink, staring down into it, as still as the rabbit outside. The only thing that moved was the shadow of his head, swaying gently at the ceiling. Barry? I said, feeling my stomach go cold. Barry, what's the matter? Lucy turned around. I switched off the flashlight and dropped it on the bed. We both saw the shadow of his head above us, rippling against the bluish halo. It was eerie, like being inside one of those what's wrong with this picture puzzles. The flaw was so easy to see. The light bulb on the ceiling, there shouldn't have been a shadow there, and the light bulb wasn't blue. Barry? Shh, come and look, he whispered, but walk soft. I moved reluctantly toward him. What is it? Shh, he hissed through clenched teeth. Be quiet. I bent over the sink and looked inside. The half-inch or so of water against the dark, shiny sink bottom functioned as a kind of mirror, and when I looked in, I could see on the surface the shapes of our three heads, but I quickly stopped noticing them because of what was underneath. The water glowed. It seemed in itself to be a source of light, a pool of liquid neon. It was a rich, luminous blue, like one of those ocean caverns where the only light enters through the water. And it was bottomless. I knew it was only half an inch deep, and yet I felt dizzy looking into it, as though if I fell in, I would go on falling forever. Why is the water doing that? Barry whispered. All I can think is, the water's reflecting something from somewhere that we can't see, I said. Like you can still see the sunset on the ocean after the sun's gone down? Yeah, except this light, it's not sunlight. And that thing there, I don't know what it is. For the luminous pool wasn't empty. A long shape floated in the radiant haze, vertically suspended. It waited, motionless, fuzzy, and indistinct. But we could see that the top part of it was just about to break through the surface. Don't touch the sink, Barry whispered. The smoother the water gets, the better we'll be able to see it. But what is it? Lucy asked, sniffling a little. Shh, Barry hissed furiously. 2 droplets fell into the pool. They were only tears, but the ripples they caused seemed gigantic. The dark thing dissolved into a wary, shapeless mass. Barry pushed down the knob between the faucets. The bright, bottomless void gurgled away down the drain. We stared at the empty sink bottom. I could feel how scared Barry was, more scared than I had ever known him to be. Barry was the first to turn away. He picked up the flashlight and aimed it out the door. "Look," he said, "the rabbit's starting to see it." The rabbit had turned its head a fraction of an inch to the side. Its ears were just noticeably tilted back, and its upper body slightly elongated, as though it were preparing to leap. The biscuit had crept half an inch closer to it. Lucy covered her eyes with her hands. "I won't look," she said. "It's not real. I'm dreaming." I looked down at the thing on the table. The little lights were still coursing along. "You sure it didn't hurt to touch it, Barry?" "Sure." I picked it up. It felt smooth and cold as a piece of glazed ceramic, only much lighter. I held it up to my eyes and watched it. "Maybe you should go home and get some sleep, Lucy," Barry said. "But what'll I tell them? It must be almost morning now," and then she gulped. "You've only been gone as long as it takes you to get over here," Barry explained. "They're still asleep." She stood up. All her cockiness and skepticism had left her. "I gotta think about all this," she said. "Just don't tell anybody, okay?" She nodded and mumbled an assent. "You want to stay here, Harry?" Barry said. "No, thanks." Neither of us wanted to watch Lucy step out the door and freeze. We left the playhouse together. The door slammed behind us. In the flashlight beam, the rabbit melted and took off. The survival biscuit hit the base of the sundial. "Nice aim," Barry said. Lucy smiled. "I pitch on the softball team," she said. "See you." Barry and I walked back to the house. In the darkness, the object looked like a swarm of tiny, busy fireflies. "You think the earthquake was that little thing coming through?" Barry asked me. "Well, it must cause some kind of shock when anything takes up space that was empty before pushing the air away and all," I said. "Like a sonic boom. And remember, it just escaped from the event horizon, too." "Oh?" he said, sounding a little unsure. "Anything passing through a singularity would have to go through the event horizon first, however many eons it takes. It would have been frozen in time. What we saw in the water, I think it must be a reflection from the other universe. It's kind of a window, looking right into the event horizon." Barry said as we walked into the kitchen. "Hey, look out for the table, Klutz." I was watching the object in my hand and hadn't been looking where I was going. "You were too chicken to go in there, and now you can't stop looking at that thing," Barry said. "It probably is dangerous," I said, "but I kind of like it." Barry gripped my arm, startling me. "That object we saw reflected in the sink," he said. "Yeah? You think it was something else on its way through the gate?" I stared at him. "We didn't imagine it." "No." He stepped away and started up the dark stairs. "This is probably a machine," I said. "It was just ahead of that other thing that's still in the event horizon." I stopped on the landing. "The other thing that's coming through next. I wonder if it could be alive." And that's the end of chapter 11.